Hey kids, well, since I did my fractal burning video, I've had actually quite a few people asking me if they could have a go themselves, and the reason I'm going to do this video is not to show you how to do it, although it's up to you, because I would really seriously say you do not try this at home, but it's also to show you why going into the back of a microwave like this one is a very, very bad idea. So first of all, let's look at the fact that microwaves, so this here, as you can see, is the magnetron. The magnetron produces microwaves. Microwaves excite water molecules. That's how they cook your food. The water molecules rub together and make heat, and your food warms up. Bear in mind we're what, 75 something, I need to check, but 75% water, I would say. If you get your hand in the way of a magnetron, you're going to burn fairly quickly. Now, the other thing with magnetrons, apart from the high voltage, is the fact that inside here, or I think it's just down in here, is something called beryllium oxide. Now, beryllium oxide is probably more dangerous than asbestos. It causes a disease or a condition called berylliosis, which will basically destroy your lungs, give you cancer, all that kind of stuff. So there's two reasons why you shouldn't be in the back of a microwave. The third, see this little bad boy down here? That is a 400 volt 1 microfarad capacitor. Now, this microwave had been sitting in my shed for probably 12 months before I took it apart. Even so, I bridged those contacts for the simple reason that if you were to touch those, even though after 12 months it's probably fairly certain that it would have been discharged. If it's not, if you've just opened this microwave 10 minutes, an hour, a day, whatever, I don't know, after you've unplugged it, if you touch those two contacts, you're gonna die. Okay, so that's reason number 3. So now I'm going to show you the setup. Bear in mind the power used to come in up here. I've disconnected the magnetron there. The main transformer sat there. There was a low voltage centre tap off the transformer, which controlled all this stuff here, which is all your low voltage stuff. So this is where your timer and control circuitry, etc., would work. But I would imagine that's probably working on, I don't know, 24 volts, 12 volts, something like that. So what I'll do is I'll show you what I did with the microwave transformer, and how we get on with it. Sort of fly. Okay, so let's have a look at the main microwave transformer itself. What you've got here is a standard unballasted transformer. What that means is that if you plug it into somewhere, it will continue to draw current and draw power until essentially it blows up. So again, it's not a particularly safe way of doing things, but as long as you take the right precautions. So what we have here is, obviously, there's the mains plug there, which goes all the way around. And what I've done here for safety is I've tapped in and put this foot switch. So that's basically a momentary switch, push to make switch, whatever you want to call it. The idea behind that is the last thing you want to do is having a 2000 volt transformer plugged in, completely live, and if something goes wrong, obviously it's just going to keep shorting itself out. So the way the transformer works, very simple. 240 volts from the mains goes in there and there, live and neutral, doesn't matter which way they go. Okay, and you have the primary windings there. Now, for argument's sake, the primary windings, what this does is this steps up the voltage by approximately 10 times. So if you were to say that we've got 230 volts coming out of the UK socket, what you're going to have coming out the other end is a 2000 volt or 2300 volts output. It also steps down the current, so whereas there would normally be 13 amps going in there, coming out of it, which is there and on the chassis itself, which I've basically just put a bolt there, it steps the current down, so the current drops down by about 10, so you'd be looking at 1 amp. Now the reason this is also dangerous is because it only requires about 100 volts at probably 50 milliamps, something like that, to stop your heart. So if you think that this bad boy is kicking out over 2000 volts at 1 amp, yeah, so it's do not pass go. Do not collect £200. You'll be dead before you hit the floor if you touch this. So on the output, what I've got here, that's the hot wire there, the red. This is specialist high voltage cable, so it's insulated for high voltage, same as on the black wire that goes to the chassis. And then what you've seen here, these are what I call my chicken sticks. So this is PVC pipe along here, which I hold onto from a very, very safe distance. And on top of that, I also make sure that I'm wearing these, which are insulated gloves, very, very thick rubber insulated gloves. I'm also extremely cautious as to how I mount my workpiece, because again, you've got to make sure that there's no chance of any current leakage. So I'll just give you another quick look at what I've managed to produce with this. This is now after I've sanded them, so it actually looks pretty good. So this is the first piece that I had a go at. There was various touch points on there. Some of them joined up after I've been trying to do a bit of experimentation. Now the problem I had with this was MDF, or this is MDF. You need to put a baking soda solution on here, and the solution would soak into the MDF pretty quickly, given the nature of the material. So after a few minutes the figures would actually stop moving. But even so, if I get in quite close, you can still see there's some fairly intricate fractal figures that have come up. And again, once sanded, it came up a hell of a lot better. This is a piece of white pine. My father-in-law did a little bit of pyrography here, a bit of a proof of concept. But as you can see, once sanded, especially in this, with the grain of the wood, the fractal figures are so much more distinguishable. So it's going to be a bit of trial and error. I'm going to have a go on some different pieces of wood, see how we get on. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, see you soon.